in and get me, or at least they're seeing where I am. I'm in deep shit here. The days and weeks before spring came, everything was quiet. Started to plant my garden. You'd see the silo in the background. You'll see that again. You'd see this tree, all covered in leaves now. And then the veranda with the couch and the tank stand. Those two things saved our lives. This is a view of the house from down the back. If I'd have ended up down here, would have been dead. Some roses blossoming. The veranda again, where the water just raced through. And in the back, things that I managed to save. The couch that saved us. We got no warning at all. An SMS from the SES linked us to this site, and it showed the danger zone. Nowhere else was in danger at all. My street is Wilby Street. You can see it's one step back from the red line. So I thought, we're going to be okay. So went out the back. We could see the all the water from the rain from the night before. It was a very beautiful morning, very peaceful. Birds were singing. There was water, a lot of water lying around, but it was just lying around. Chatted with the neighbours over the back fence, and I found a bird's nest made from the dog's hair. So I gave it to the girl next door. We thought it was quite funny. And then the next thing you know, we saw water starting to come around the side of the neighbour's house. So I ran around the front, and I could see water was coming in to my yard. So I rushed inside and tried to put up a few items running around. I put the guitars up onto the bed, and I put a few other valuable things up on high places, and then ran outside again. I saw the neighbours taking off in their cars, and I realised that it was just going to be too deep for me to get away. So I turned around and I grabbed the dog's mat and put it on the couch, and the water was starting to come in, and I grabbed the dog and I put her on the couch. Then there was this almighty bang. The power lines came down, and then the neighbour's house floated by down the road. Oh my God. And then the couch started to lift, and that was when things got really, really hairy. The stream of water picked up the couch, and I steered it into the tank stand. I used it to jump up onto the tank stand, and then I pulled the dog up behind me. God, what a thing. Going to try and come in and get me, or at least they're seeing where I am. I'm in deep shit here. I don't think they're going to be able to get here. water's just rushing through. The poor old dog, she's standing on the couch. The couch is floating. So I managed to wedge it up against the tank stand, but I'm just not strong enough to get up. Just not strong enough to get up onto the tank. It's just a little bit too high for me to lift. Looks like they're coming in for me, and or they're coming in for someone else. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. I tried to dump up onto the tank, but the border underneath gave way, and I just managed to catch my feet on the edge of a little piece of timber, and that's where I stayed. The dog put her feet up on a floating bucket to get them out of the water. You could see the water was just rushing in, and then it was came right up to my knees, and then it dropped down just a little bit, just about a foot or so, and there we stayed. We watched the helicopters coming and going. They were rescuing people all over town. Coming in for me, or is he coming in for someone else? I really don't know. There's a two-story house over there, but maybe they didn't even get upstairs. Yeah, I think he's going down for someone else. Probably easier to get at. Pick up the low slung fruit. There's two helicopters coming for me now. I don't know. There's one over there, I think you can see. And then there's one here as well. They're all around, but it's, I mean, there must be people trapped all over town because, Jesus Christ, it came up so bloody quickly. It's, you know, like I just did it. I saw the girl next door take off and I thought, oh shit, I better put the paintings up and things. And anyway, I've lost everything. I've lost everything. It's a bit of it's a real pity. But anyway, here we are. The floodwaters are rising. I can't quite get onto the tank stand. I'm just not strong enough. But anyway, the dog's still here. She's pushing up against my leg, balancing on a plastic box, which is hurting her feet, I know. I can't do anything about it. I can't lift her. God Christ, and I'm watching the most incongruous things, you know. Children's toys, a slippery dip went by, a dog's ball, the neighbour's dog. God, the neighbour's dog was stuck in the trees for a while, but I can't see him there now. I think he's gone. I think he's gone. In Labrador, he might survive. They float. But anyway, I better rescue the dog. Hang on. The helicopters came and went. There were, 2 or 3 in the sky at any one time. Sometimes they'd hover over and they'd be blowing the water right up on you. It was cold and the spray was wet. The waters receded just a little bit, and the emergency services kept calling me to check in to see if I was okay. You can see the water level is still pretty high. The poor old car drowned. The neighbour's shed, my trailer at the back there, all drowned. That's where the neighbour's dog hung out for a while, but I think he got washed away. And this is where I was. I was just on the veranda here, and suddenly the water started floating the couch away. So me and the dog got on the couch and we floated over to here and up onto the tank stand, which is just emerging out of the water now. But you can see that water's really flowing so fast. Wouldn't want to get caught in it. Wouldn't want to get caught in it. And here I am. Riverview. Riverview Cottage. Yeah, bloody bastard of a thing. The SES website didn't show this as being an area of evacuation. And I think that I was relying on watching the flood upriver, the next station up, and it showed the water dropping. Although I wasn't too sure, but now I think what's happened is that the water level meter had broken. Anyway, I just saw my neighbour running out and rush in with her baby and jump in the car and drive away. And when I saw her drive away, the water was just absolutely racing down the road like a river. The road had turned into a river, and it was up over our hubcaps in a four-wheel drive, and I thought, shit. So I ran inside to put anything up that I could onto beds and things like that, but you know, there's no hope for most of my stuff. And anyway, then I came outside. It was quite hard to get the door open because the water was pushing against the outside screen door, and debris had already started piling up on it. But I managed to push it open, and then the dog refused to come out because she didn't want to go in the deeper water, and then the water was getting deeper in the house. So anyway, finally she agreed to join me, and then the door closed and we ran out onto the veranda here. And then I realised, shit, I need the ladder, and the ladder's inside, but I couldn't get back inside. I couldn't get back inside, so I couldn't grab the ladder. And there you go, traps for young players. If there's a flood in the area, get the ladder outside and up against the side of the house so you can at least get on the roof, not get trapped on the bloody tank stand. God, Christ, what a morning, what a morning. It rained here for a little while, but not very much. Fortunately, it went south. Anyway, that's enough. So the water levels dropped a bit, and I could see my feet, and the dog could keep her feet a little bit dry. The police kept ringing to see if I was okay, and I told them, yeah, no, I'm fine. Look, I'm sure there's other people more needy. I'm okay. I stood on the tank stand for 5 hours. 5 hours before the water dropped enough to be able to move. Heard a siren, but I'm not sure what that is. We're going to do a rescue, I think, with a neighbour. Yeah, he's coming out. Yeah, down he comes. Good. There we go. Spinning. Okay, I don't think you can see it now. There's another helicopter over here. Just supervising, I think. Anyway, it's all happening. After about 5 hours, helicopter came overhead to the house next door, and a neighbour with his 2 children were rescued. I was so pleased to see them being lifted up. I'd called out a couple of times, but I'd heard nothing, so I thought they might have been washed away. Thank God they weren't.
water level started to drop quite a bit, and I could see a bigger area on the other side of the tank stand. So I moved over there, which was a bit more comfortable. You could see it had dropped about 3 feet. And so there I stayed. The dog was starting to be able to settle in a bit better too. And I could sit. After nearly 6 hours, I could sit. And the dog started to sort of rest into the couch. She actually went to sleep. It was good. The water was still raging by, but you could see how much the water level had dropped from the bottom of the coat, so about 3 feet. And helicopters were everywhere still, and the water was still racing through. You still wouldn't want to get in it. But eventually I saw some people walking down the street waist deep, and then the fire truck came, and then somebody came and got me. About 8.5, 9 hours after the flood first started, I walked out and the dog swam, and we climbed up onto the back of the fire truck, which was bogged. So another fire truck had to come in and unbog us. But you could see that the water level had dropped quite a bit now. But it was just this long endurance, and so relieved at this point, so relieved to see. There were other people on the truck as well, and we sort of chatted. There were other people and other dogs. There's the house that floated down the street, and my house behind with the green roof, and my neighbour's house where the kids and the fellow had been rescued. Now we're starting to drive out, reverse out, going past my house. In the background behind that house, sitting in the street, you could see the power lines are down. And I'm just starting to become a bit overwhelmed by the scope of the devastation as we start to move past. Look at those power lines, there they are. That's why people couldn't come into me in a boat or anything, because they couldn't get past that stuff. There's the other neighbour's house, had the side ripped out of it. And the silos in the background there, and my house and my little tank stand at the back. Then we come in, that house, that blue house, that had never been there, that had come from somewhere else entirely. You can see the waters are starting to recede now, and the river current had abated. But devastation everywhere. Vehicles washed up or abandoned in the absolute torrent. It just came up in about 5 or 6 minutes. We just had, just a few minutes to react. People's stories everywhere now, a lot of people had it a lot worse than I did, I can tell you. I was lucky to be safe. Anyway, we ended up at the showground and was able to charge my phone the next day. When I arrived at the showground, it was pretty chaotic. Our neighbour's other child who'd ridden off on his bicycle greeted me, so that was really nice to see that he was okay too. I was quite relieved. You could see the extent of the flooding in a moment. And anyway, I just was told that we were being evacuated to Orange. But then by the time it was, sort of looking like my turn, it had got quite dark, and the helicopters stopped. And so we just stayed. We stayed overnight, slept on the ground, and drove out the next morning. Got a lift down to my house first thing in the morning before we took the bus to Orange. The house in the yard, the neighbour's car in the yard. It was quite a thing. I went inside and I could see that some things had survived. My guitars had survived. Some of my paintings had survived up on the wall. The water hadn't quite reached. And so, relieved, I went back to the thing, had some more food, got on the bus with the dog and a few other people, and off we went to Orange. Eventually, driving through the landscape, you could see the extent of the devastation through town. All of the canola crop washed up, onto the various houses. This is driving down the main road from Canowindra to Forbes and the Orange Turnoff. And you can see the bridge is washed out there, power lines knocked over, houses out of place, water everywhere, great bare patches, cars washed up onto the street. Some of the older houses, they took it really well, but the more modern houses, they just sort of floated off their foundations and floated away. As some people lost absolutely everything, so I was pretty lucky. Some things were saved. We got the clean-up to come. That's what's going to happen next. But, anyway, here we are, just driving out of town. You can see with the images from the road as we're going up to Orange, there's the culprit. That's the creek. Back to normal. Sort of, that's a minor flood. That's what it looks like in a minor flood. You can see the extent of the of how far away. Look at the brown. That's how far away the water spread across the landscape. Just astonishing. Then we arrived at Orange RSL, absolutely exhausted. The dog was given food, I was given food, we registered again, we're given a room at the university, able to have the most beautiful meal, thanks to the guys at the chefs who worked overtime. Cooked a beautiful, beautiful lunch and managed to order some medications and all those sorts of things, and then we ended up at the uni. So I made it to Charles Sturt, and they've given me a room. I've got my guitar in there, a bed to make, a little fridge, a desk for study, and a lovely outlook. And I think I'm here for a couple of days. And I tell you what, I've had it. And I'm going to have a lovely shower. There we go. I tell you what, I've had it. I'm going to have a lovely shower and go to bed. Here you can see the river heights upriver. It started to fall and I didn't believe it. And here you can see the river level for town. And here's my house with the green roof and the silo in the background.